Good morning. Today I'm going to run through number 13 on your assignment to help out. Once again, what we're doing is the calculus part of a rational graph. So the increasing, decreasing, concavity, max, min, everything relative to a rational graph. Okay? And so I'm just going to jump right in since we've talked about these before. No big introduction is required. So I'm just going to start right off the bat with the increasing, decreasing, which of course requires the derivative. And because we're starting with a fraction, that forces us to use quotient rule. So the derivative of our original function then is going to be the low function multiplied by the derivative of the high minus the high function times the derivative of the low over the square of the function below. So we have low d high minus high d low over the square of what's below. Okay? A little bit of simplifying. Distributing 1, distributing the x, and combining the x squared and the negative 2x squared. And so that's going to give us negative x squared minus 4. And downstairs we have x squared minus 4 squared. Okay, so there's our derivative. Now we need to do a sign analysis to determine the increasing, decreasing. Now the numerator, I would point out, you can factor out a negative 1 from each of the terms, which makes it x squared plus 4. And if you use those separately, the negative 1 and the x squared plus 4, then I hope you see that the negative 1 does not have a variable. So no matter what value of x you consider, negative 1 will remain negative 1. X squared plus 4 is never going to be equal to 0. If you consider x squared plus 4 all by itself and try setting it equal to 0, when you move the 4 to the other side, you have to subtract. And then when you take the square root of both sides, you then get plus or minus 2i. Imaginary numbers we're not using, so you see that x squared plus 4 remains positive everywhere. And then finally, x squared minus 4 squared, the denominator, so x squared minus 4 squared, that one actually is going to be equal to 0. So x squared minus 4 squared is going to be equal to 0 at plus or minus 2. And you can see that by taking the square root of both sides right off the bat. So you'd have x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. Then move the negative 4 to the other side by addition and get rid of the power of 2 by taking the square root. So we get plus or minus 2. So it is equal to 0 at negative 2 and positive 2. But as opposed to the original function, because of the power of 2 attached to it, so because of this power of 2, no matter what number we get when we insert any other values other than negative 2 and 2, when we square it, we always get a positive result. Okay? So mull that one over if you need to, or plunk some numbers in if you need to. And then what we're going to do with those three strings of values is multiply the first two and divide by the third. So we'll have division by 0, division by 0. Everywhere else we have 1 negative divided by 2 positives, 1 negative divided by 2 positives, 1 negative and 2 positives. So therefore you can see then where we're going to have increasing and decreasing intervals. Increasing, we have none because there's no positive results on our sign analysis. Decreasing essentially everywhere. So from negative infinity to negative 2, from negative 2 to positive 2, and from positive 2 to positive, I'm going to make that look a little nicer, to positive infinity. Okay? And like always, feel free to pause the video if you need to, look at something again or take a look. For if I'm too far out ahead of you, feel free, like always, to pause the video. But otherwise, I'm going to move on to concavity. And so I'm then going to take our first derivative, which was negative x squared minus 4 over x squared minus 4 squared, and we're going to have to find the second derivative. Okay, and once again, because we have a fraction, that forces us to then use quotient rule. So again, that's going to be low d high minus high d low. And now when we do the d low, that's got to be a chain rule because we have the power on the outside and then the binomial on the inside. So d low will be derivative of the outside, drop down in front, subtract 1, leaving the inside function alone, and then multiply by the derivative of the inside. And then over the square of what's below, but we had something squared, so when we square something squared, we get something to the fourth. All right, I'm just making a better, geez, that looks terrible. I'm just trying to make a better, come on, Omerza. Hitting the wrong button there. There we go, that looks like a slightly better parenth. Okay, so once again, though, I'll just write this out and make sure. Low d high minus high d low over the square of what's below. All right, so there's our quotient rule. And again, sure looks like we're going to need to do some simplifying so we can get a feel for what's going on here. So start by distributing the negative 2x. Negative 2x times x squared. Negative 2x times negative 4. All right. Oh, you know what I should do first, though? Didn't think of it. I should have. What I should do before I start simplifying is I should cancel. Almost forgot that. The idea is I have 2 x squared minus 4s in that first term, 1 in the second term, and then 4 down in the basement. So to make my life easier, I should cancel one of those out. So I should cancel 1 from the second term, 1 from the first term, and 1 out of the denominator. Boy, I'm glad I caught that. So now the simplifying is going to be a touch easier. I'll distribute negative 2x times x squared, negative 2x times negative 4, and then on the end here, let's see, I wonder what I should do. Maybe I'll put the 2 and the 2x together as a 4x. Distribute 4x times x squared, 4x times 4, and then work on my plus and minuses. For the first term, I would have 2 negatives, so that makes it a plus. And for the second term, I would have 2 negatives, so that makes it a plus. And then down in the basement, I still have x squared minus 4 cubed. Okay, put together the like terms. Negative 2x cubed and positive 4x cubed would be positive 2x cubed. 8x and 16x is 24x. Okay, we're about set to go, but I think what I'll do is I'll factor out what's common in the top first. So I'll take a 2x out of the first and a 2x out of the second. Right, and I think that'll make the sign analysis for concavity a little bit nicer. So now I'll have a 2x, I'll have an x squared plus 12, and I'll have an x squared minus 4 cubed. Okay, alrighty. So the first one, 2x, that's going to be equal to 0 when x equals 0. Negative to the left of that, positive to the right of that. X squared plus 12 is never equal to 0, because if you try setting it equal to 0 and solve, you have to multiply the other side by subtraction, and then take the square root of both sides, but we're taking the square root of a negative, which forces us to introduce I. So this just remains positive always. And then the last term, x squared minus 4 cubed, once again, just as before, that's going to be equal to 0 at negative 2 and positive 2, but this time because of the power of 3, remember last time we had a power of 2, which made everything positive. Because of the power of 3 then, we've got to check to make sure we know where we have positives and where we have negatives. So if I were to put in something like -3, -3 squared is 9, 9 minus 4 is 5, and 5 cubed is 125, so positive. If I put in something in between the twos like 0, 0 squared minus 4 is -4, -4 cubed is -64, so negatives. And if I put in something to the right of 2 like 3, 3 squared is 9, 9 minus 4 is 5, and 5 cubed is 125, so positives. Okay? And once again, we multiply the first two and divide by the third, so we'd have multiplication by 0, then division by 0, and division by 0. Everywhere else, or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. To the left of -2, we'd have 1 negative and 2 positives, so negative. In between -2 and 0, we'd have 2 negatives and 1 positive, so positive. In between 0 and 2, we'd have 2 positives and 1 negative, negative. And to the right of 2, we'd have 3 positives, so positive result. So we can then clearly see where we're concave up and where we're concave down. Concave up wherever the second derivative is greater than 0, so that's -2 to 0, and then from 2 to positive infinity. Concave down wherever the second derivative is less than 0, so that's going to be from -infinity to -2, and then from 0 to 2. Okay? And we have an inflection point where the concavity changes, and traditionally that's where x is equal, oh, I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. That's traditionally where the second derivative is equal to 0. And if I choose color, change colors here, you can see where the second derivative is going to be equal to 0. That's at x equals 0. So when I put in 0 into the original function, I get 0 over -4, and so I end up at 0. Okay? And then finally, maximums and minimums, maxes and mins. Okay? So critical values, we can essentially grab our critical values from the increasing and decreasing part of this, all right? And you can see from our sign analysis for increasing and decreasing that the first derivative is never going to be equal to 0 because the numerator can never be equal to 0. Let me choose a highlighter tool so I can point that out. Remember the two factors that made up the numerator were the -1 and the x squared plus 4. So it's this line and this line. So the first derivative can never be equal to 0. And the first derivative can be d/e, undefined, wherever the first derivative is undefined. And you can see that's where the denominator is equal to 0. And that's going to occur on this line. And you can see that occurs at -2 and +2. So our critical values are -2 and 2. Okay? But, of course, there's an issue with that. And when we try, let's say as an example, our first derivative test with our critical values. So once again, our critical values are -2 and +2. And then we try putting in a number to the left, a number in between, and a number to the right. And then we take a look at the derivative. We know it's undefined at both of those folks. And then what's going to happen at -3 is we're going to end up with, I think that's going to be, let's see, that would be -9 minus 4. So that'd be -13 over 25. At 0, we'd have -4 over -16. So that's going to be -1/4. And then at 3, once again, I believe we get -13 25ths. I believe I'm punching those out okay. But the key is, at -3, the derivative's negative, we'd be going downhill. Okay, then we have an undefined value. Then at 0, the derivative is negative, so we're still going downhill. And finally, undefined at 2. And then at 3, -13 25ths, we're still going downhill. So we're decreasing everywhere that it's not undefined, and therefore, there's no change from positive to negative or negative to positive. So in this case, there would be no max or min. Okay? And the final thing I wanted to do for you is I wanted to graph the function as we would have in algebra or pre-calc. So just draw a graph using our old algebra steps, right? Step one, we don't have to worry about factor, cancel, and wholes because of the numerator. You can't cancel anything. So number two, we're going to have zeros anywhere the numerator is equal to 0. So that's really easy. We just said x equal to 0, which means we cross the x-axis at 0. Step three, we have vertical asymptotes anywhere the denominator is equal to 0. So we set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. So move the -4 to the other side. Take the square root of both sides, so we get x equals plus or minus 2. So we'll have a vertical asymptote at -2. And therefore, hopefully now you see, oh, that's why we had all of the undefines with our increasing, decreasing, concavity, and all the rest, because there are vertical asymptotes there. Number 4, the y-intercept is already taken care of because we already know it also crosses the y-axis at 0. But if you didn't catch that, it's no big deal. When you replace x with 0 everywhere, you'd have 0 over 0 squared minus 4, which gets you to 0. Okay, and number 5, our other asymptote, excuse me, we have to check the degrees, and let me change colors so I can highlight them. So the biggest power on a variable up top is 1, and the biggest power on a variable down below is 2. So the power above is smaller than the power below. So we're going to have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0, which is the same as the x-axis. Okay, and remember, horizontal asymptotes just help us out with end behavior. Don't worry about the asymptote in the middle of your picture. Just way out to the left and way out to your right. Okay, and then finally, to sketch this in, we need some help to get started because we don't know if we should be on the top side of the horizontal or the bottom side of the horizontal. There's no information that clearly shows us that. So we actually have to put in a value left of -2, left of that asymptote. So we use something like -3. And what we get as a result is -3 over -3 squared minus 4. -3 squared is 9, and 9 minus 4 is 5. So overall we get -3/5, and the negative tells us we have to be below the horizontal asymptote. And that gives us our starting point. So now we can go down as we approach the vertical asymptote, change directions on the other side. We can go through both the x-axis and the y-axis. Head down, change direction again, and then finish it off. And now you can tell, I hope, that the curve the entire time is going downhill, so the entire time, other than the asymptotes, we're decreasing. Then I'd challenge you to look at the concavity, where we're concave up and concave down. It matches up exactly with what we just found. And finally, you can tell that we don't have any maximums and minimums because we have no hilltops or valleys. Okay, so again, that's your number 13. So get that one down, and then you're responsible for number 14 on your own. Okay, so I hope you're having a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.